Okay. So the book is in Hebrew, but the translation is before you. Somebody wanted another one, no?
There was more here.
There's more? There's enough?
Everybody
Okay.
has?
Okay. So, faith and confidence is a topic that the Rebbe, I don't think there was a day that went by that he didn't say something about it. There's a few different topics that he constantly talks about. And one of them begins with the notion that the purpose that we have in our lives is to overcome nature. This we've talked about in different opportunities. But the last topic that we covered, which was the difference between the Elokim of Bereshis Bara Elokim Es Hashemayim V'Haaretz and Vaydaber Elokim et Kol HaDvarim Ha'eleh Lemor, the pasuk before the giving of the Torah, there are two different types of tzimtzum. And the notion is that the soul is greater than nature. That the soul, which is like the Torah, which comes down like the Torah, is supposed to be a concentrated form of godliness, of the divine, whereas nature is a concealed form of the divine. So we talked about the differences between those two meanings of contraction, of tzimtzum. So the reason that Hashem gave the Torah 2,000 years, 2,448 years after he created the world, was to let the world sort of settle in before you begin to really rectify it. At the beginning was already Avram, already in the year 1999 for creation, then the year 2000 when he started creating converts in Haran. That was the beginning of the rectification that the Torah would bring into the world. But the real moment was the giving of Torah at Mount Sinai, and that revealed the soul. It revealed the power of the soul over nature. And the most important thing to know about the power, when something has power over something else, is that it has to be very careful not to coerce it. That's the main lesson that a person has to learn in life. Is that when you're given power, you have to exercise it very carefully, especially when we mean that the power of the soul is higher than or greater than the power of nature. That means that you cannot break nature, and you can't shatter it. Nature has to agree. The world has to agree to your idea. The world has to agree to the direction you're taking it in. And that is the responsibility of having a soul. Meaning, it's the complete opposite picture than most people have. A lot of people have a picture that somehow we're at the mercy of nature. But the Torah has a complete opposite picture, which is that nature is at our mercy. And because of that, we need to act responsibly. So some of that is being understood now in terms of technology. Because of technology, there's all this green movement, and understanding that we're maybe hurting nature in different ways. But we're not talking about in that direction. We're talking about, for instance, that a person has certain natural inclinations, certain natural powers in his soul, and even though the Torah tells him to do something, he has to be very careful not to break, not to shatter his natural continence, not to shatter the way that he is. He needs to overcome it, but not shatter it. Those are two different things. There has to be an agreement that's coming from nature that this is how I would like to be in the end. The mashal, the parable that's constantly used, is that it's like a man wooing a woman. And so if she, which is where unfortunately a lot of the domestic violence comes from, that if she doesn't agree, the next step is that he goes and hurts her. And that's because there's no responsibility, there's no understanding of the power that you wield. There's no understanding of what it means, v'huim sholbach, that he has some power over you. So it could be physical power, it could be financial power, it could be anything. Today it could be between not man and woman in the sexual sense, but it could be between a man and a woman, or somebody who's a mashpia and somebody who's a receiver, in terms of what we call, for instance, authority problems, right? That there's an abuse of authority, that somebody uses the authority that they have over other people, it could be a man or a woman, to gain certain pleasures from them or take certain things from them that they don't want to give, right? The whole, everything that's associated with that. So this goes back to something very, very basic, which is that when Hashem gave the Torah, what he was giving us was the power to open up our souls and utilize them to change the world. But the change has to be one that the world can live with, that it wants. It has to express its consent. And how does the world express its consent? That we will learn in chapter 8. There's a long way off. But that's the basis for all of this. Now, that's the general idea behind faith and confidence. And because the Rebbe wanted to change the world, it was very important for him all the time to deal with these subjects in different ways. What he's most famous for, which comes to faith and confidence, is the statement, "Trach gut wird sein gut." Think good and it will be good. And this is an expression, obviously, of confidence, of the ability to change, meaning that it's even enough, the soul is so powerful, that even thinking of something can affect reality. And not only can, it will affect reality over time. All the more so doing. When you act, it affects reality. And these are two aspects of confidence. Of having the confidence and self-confidence even, that Hashem has given me the mission to change reality. Faith, though, is something completely the opposite. And that's what we're going to start with. So we have to start with faith, because if you don't do faith first, so then there's no real ability to change things without running the risk of shattering them and breaking them. So faith is what we'll begin to read about today. So he says like this: one who has faith in the power of a true tzaddik, and about a tzaddik it says, the tzaddik decrees and the Almighty acts, purges from his consciousness any thoughts or machinations which might be helpful in attaining that which he seeks. Faith is about purging, meaning cleaning out, making an empty space, a void, inside our consciousness. What is faith saying? Faith is saying that in the end, even if I don't do anything, the world is good. Things are good. So right away he gives an example of where you might find something like this. You might find something like this in the relationship between a tzaddik and a chassid. That if the tzaddik tells me it'll be okay, so the first thing that I need to do, to be able to do, is to clean myself, purge myself from any other thoughts I might have had. So you might say, maybe this is confidence in the tzaddik. So no, it's not exactly. It's not confidence yet. It's first of all the ability to cleanse myself, to create a void inside that is just willing to accept it as it is.
Except what
This is the world. But not just the world, but the tzaddik saying. This is what he said. How do we know that this is how it works? Because when Hashem created the world, we talked about this, that the first thing that he creates is some kind of empty space. So overcoming nature or changing the world is like creating a different world, a new world. So Hashem wants to give us the strength to know how to do this. So that's why the Arizal revealed how this all works. Meaning we learn from Hashem how to create worlds. Now granted, our worlds are not exactly 5 trillion tons of rock and so on and so forth. But every person's life is a world. And within that life, there's many things that need to be created, many things that need us to overcome nature, to do something that doesn't seem to be able to be done initially. So the first thing is that there has to be an ability to start fresh, as it were, to cleanse myself of all the different machinations, all the different cheshbonos, all the different plans, all the different ways that I thought I would achieve my goal. Because, for instance, if somebody comes to a tzaddik and says, I don't have enough money for my daughter's wedding, and the tzaddik tells him, I give you a bracha that you will have. So the first thing that for this bracha to actually occur and actually have a place to dwell in this person is that you have to make room for it. But if you're full, you're still, your mind is still full with all the plans that you made before, then the bracha doesn't have a chance to actually even, there's no vessel for it. There's no place for it to establish itself in your life. I'm not saying that afterwards you don't do many things. You may do many things afterwards. But the initial reaction has to be one of, it'll be good. The world's a good place, and it'll turn out for the best. And not just the best, it'll work. If he gave me a bracha, it's fine. So it should lead to a sense of calm, like a very calm sea. Nothing is disturbing me anymore. That's the initial sense of faith. Faith is like being able to empty yourself from all the troubles, all the different storms, psychological or physical or whatever they are, and to be able to begin to relax, and knowing that this will work out. And I don't know how. I have no idea how. But I was given a bracha, that's it. When Hashem created the world, it says that he created many worlds, and he tossed them out. He created one world, and said, no, this is not what I wanted. He created a second world, it's not what I wanted. A third world, it's not what I wanted. And so I just kept going, who knows for how long. Why would he do this? What, he doesn't know what he wants? If he doesn't know what he wants, it's a process of discovery. Let's find out what I want. And obviously that doesn't make any sense. Hashem didn't need to figure out what he wanted. He knew what he wanted. So it must be that, and also the sages are telling us this, they didn't go into his head, so they're not talking about a process of discovery. They told us about this because they're telling us something about our world. Meaning that process of Hashem creating something and tossing it out, and creating something and tossing it out, is for us. It's for the world. Meaning, how did he check each world that he created if this was the world that he wanted or not? So he asked the world, what do you understand from the fact that I created many worlds before you? What do you get from that? So the world probably said that those weren't good enough, and that I'm the best. If that's what you understood, so that you didn't get the point yet. So you toss that world out again. You create another one. Another one, until finally one world said the right thing. What's the moral of the story? That Hashem created many worlds before me. It's not to be afraid to throw my world away. Not to be married to it. Why? Because why are you so attached to? Why would they? So one explanation is because I'm egotistical, because I'm attached to it. But the ability to purge away everything that was until now is to say that even if there's only Hashem in the world, that's good enough. He doesn't need me to achieve his goals. It's like to throw the world away, a world that learned that it's a good thing to be able to throw something away, even throw me away. You don't need me. So that's already something that you can build on. That's already an empty space that can contain something. But if the space that you want to build on already has, let's say you're building a house. So what do you want? You want an empty plot of land, ideally. Why? So that whatever you build will be very good, and you'll be able to build from the ground up. But if you come to a plot of land and somebody's already started building there, and there's excavations in some places,
You get it cheaper.
and and there's a part of a construction already up, and you say, I have to somehow salvage everything because chaval, it's cheaper, right? Because you got it, but you also get all these pieces. So you say, so maybe I got all these pieces and I should hold on to them because they're very important, so I don't want to throw them out. And so you're afraid to build anew. You're afraid you can't work freely. So the ability to purge is to say that I can start anew completely. And it's not dependent on anything that was here. So if a person comes with this construct already and says, oh, I'm going to be empowered now to change reality. But that empowerment is very, very dependent on what I believe in and what I think and what my proclivities are and my cravings and my dreams, all this and all that. So I'm empowering you to continue to be who you were. It could be that I'm just increasing your ego. I'm not doing anything else. So to begin to really affect, I have to be a good vessel. I have to be a purged vessel. And a purged vessel means that even if I'm not here, everything will be fine. It's this faith, a leap of faith, that everything is fine. It's very interesting, and we'll get to it in chapter 8, but it's the strongest example, so I'll bring it now. When before Avram became Avraham, it says, Ve'emin ba'Hashem ve'achshava lo tzedakah, that he believed in Hashem, and Hashem considered it a charity. And the Ba'al Shem Tov explains that when he believed in Hashem, it wasn't just a regular belief. The people who believed before, Noach and Chanoch, they also had faith in Hashem. But Avram was willing to believe in Hashem so much that even the previous promises that Hashem had given him, he was willing to forego. He says, whether you give me these promises, you fulfill them, you don't fulfill them, it's all good for me. It's all good. Why? Because I have faith in you. I know that when Hashem promises, he supposedly has to perform. Okay? But you promised, Abba. Try telling your kids or somebody else that you promised something to, that you can't keep the promise. So they're going to be broken. It's like these worlds that we had a plan. What happened to the plan? It's not here. So it's an incredibly high level that a person has to attain in order to begin to enter in this whole thing of faith and confidence. And in the end, we'll talk about self-confidence. Mamash has confidence in himself. But to get there has to be this first movement, or this first state of mind, which is being able to clear myself out completely from all my plans, all my, here it's machinations, all the ways that I thought that I would achieve the goal that I had set out to achieve. All that has to somehow clean out. And you have to start anew, just like Hashem created the world. It's like in a void. There's nothing here. Where are your plans, Hashem? I don't know. But it's going to work out. How are you going to get there? Don't know. But that non-knowledge, that willingness to become void of all my cheshbonos, all my different ideas and inclinations, is a necessary step in order to truly empower somebody. You have to, yeah, that's the first step, and that's called purging. So see, read it in Hebrew. כשם שמאמין בכוחו של צדיק אמת, צדיק גוזר וקדוש ברוך הוא מקיים, מסלק מדעתו כל ערעור וחיפוש אחר תחבולות שונות, העשויות להועיל לו בהשגת מבוקשו, מרוב דבקותו בצדיק באהבה רבה, ויראת רוממות מעלתו, long parenthesis, סומך עליו בלבד ואינו פונה ממנו כלל וכלל. So it's not an emptiness. It means that I'm clinging to the source. What's my source? My source is Hashem. I'm emptying myself of myself. And this, by the way, is very similar to what they do in the East, but with one important difference. That in the East, what they do is they want to connect to nothingness. And here we want to connect to the absolute somethingness, to absolute being, to Hashem.
What is the aim? To connect to nothing?
It's saying that really there is no point to anything. And here, it's not that there's no point, there's no plan. But Hashem is the ultimate good. And it is in terms of good or the opposite of good. Meaning that when I clean myself out, what's left is a quiet contentness. That Hashem is good, and therefore, in the end, everything is good. Even if it doesn't happen the way that I think it needs to happen. It's like that the first lesson in bringing the Mashiach, even before you start doing something, is that I know, of course, that this will happen eventually. So it may not be up to me. It's not, so. But that's, and this is the traditional Jewish outlook on the redemption. The traditional Jewish outlook was always that we don't need to do anything. We just have to believe. I have complete faith. And it.
So many people I met in America, that's the thing. It's like, why go to Israel? You wait. You wait for Mashiach. You don't try to make it happen.
No.
You don't try to force the hand
This
of
is
God.
the forcing. This is what
They're forcing the hand of God only.
No.
But if we live here, we're forcing.
That's how they see it.
One of the things that the Rebbe didn't want to get into an argument with people over was this question about whether when I say that you change, you have the power and you should feel that the Torah has the power to change nature, does that include everything? Does that also include Hashem's plans? Okay. So there's an understanding that as long as Hashem hasn't brought us back to Eretz Yisrael, so why would you go? Why would you try to force it? There's no Isser to go back. But there is an Isser to conquer it as well. That's what the Gemara says. So people felt that this was going against that Isser, the moment that you do it this way. The Rebbe found all kinds of answers, and his main answer was very interesting. He said that they're not trying to conquer it, they're just trying to protect themselves.
This is it.
That was his main answer to this, which was that the reason that the state exists is not because anybody, and it's true, none of the people that formed the state of Israel wanted to bring the redemption. That was not on their minds. What they were interested in was surviving in Eretz Yisrael, but there was no talk of we're going to force Hashem. They didn't even think of Hashem. So the Rebbe said that in a certain sense, this was the only way you could explain this, was that they really were just trying to protect themselves. And it's allowed, there's nothing in the Torah that says that Jews are not allowed to protect themselves. Okay, so he never gave sanctity to the state. On the other hand, he very much strengthened its existence by saying that this is necessary to protect the people that live here, and that otherwise it will be one big massacre. So that was his answer all the time. He very much was against talking about it as any kind of part of Geula. It's not part of Geula. What? So that sort of stands, that you don't force Hashem's hand. On the other hand, a lot of people, when they heard the Rebbe day after day, so they had a feeling, they had an understanding that the Rebbe is all for forcing Hashem's hand. But forcing Hashem's hand in the sense of doing more mitzvos. That was like how we saw it. That will call out even more. That we'll do another mitzvah. We'll do another. It wasn't forcing his hand by creating a reality that can't be argued with. It wasn't like by saying, that's why he was so against this. This person is now the Mashiach and you can't help, and you can't do anything about it. He never wanted anything like that. Because when you do that, so that's it might be that's already not understanding this whole concept of having faith. And as we'll see as we go on, faith is stronger when you're in exile. And confidence is stronger when you're coming out of exile or when you're in Eretz Yisrael. That Eretz Yisrael is in a certain sense the land of confidence. It's like it's where confidence is discovered, and where you're supposed to discover your ability to change nature.
So moving to Israel is not a mitzvah?
It's a mitzvah to live in Israel.
To live in Israel is a mitzvah?
According to the Ramban, yeah. Okay. So now, what's an example of this? It says that there's something called dveikut b'tzadik. It's to cling to the tzaddik. And the ability to cling to the tzaddik is what allows the person to gain the state of faith. He says here that merov dveikuto b'tzadik באהבה רבה ויראת רוממות מעלתו, סומך עליו בלבד ואינו פונה ממנו כלל וכלל. To have dveikus with somebody means, in this context, that you gain from his love and from his fear of God. These are the two aspects of what it means to cling to a tzaddik. So how does this work? The tzaddik's faith is something that comes from above. It's not, tzaddik's love, it's called ahava rabba, is love that comes from above. It's not something that you worked on. It's not something that you did something in order to awaken. There's love of Hashem that comes from your actions, from your thoughts, from what you do. But there's also love of Hashem that you gain from being connected to a tzaddik. There's also yira of Hashem that comes from the tzaddik, and the yira is developed more than the love. The love, we'll see in a moment, is not hinted in this idea of clinging to the tzaddik. It's something new. But Chazal, what they say about clinging to a tzaddik is that Hashem Elokecha tira, that you shall love Hashem your, and I think here, did I put it in here even? Yes. The intensity of his clinging to the tzaddik is great love for him. Rather, it's not his great love for him, it's the great love of the tzaddik for him. And his awe of the tzaddik's august stature make him rely on the tzaddik alone, and prevents him from turning away from him. So, the idea of clinging to a tzaddik is that I don't have love and fear of my own. I've developed whatever I've developed. Let's say, before I met the Rebbe, so I thought I had some love of Hashem, and I thought I had some fear of Hashem. And then I met this person, and suddenly I see that his love and fear is nothing compared, like mine is nothing compared to his. It's just a completely different level. So how do I adopt what he has? How do I let that into me? So the same way I have to create like an empty vessel inside and let his love and fear permeate me. So how do I do that? So it's the Chazal say that there is such a thing. Et Hashem Elokecha tira, that in the same way that you need to fear Hashem your God, you also need to fear, meaning take from the fear of a tzaddik. A person would say, there's no need for me to learn from somebody else how to love and fear. It should be very personal. Why would I want it to come from somewhere else? So the Torah says that Hashem Elokecha tira, that et lerabot talmidei chachamim, that to love and fear God, you learn from a tzaddik. But it's not just that I take from his love and fear, but it's even more than that. It's to love and fear the tzaddik himself. L'rabot talmidei chachamim doesn't just mean that I take from his love and fear, but that first of all I love and fear him. And this is a very novel concept for many people. They say, well, why would I love and fear? Like, why would I have love and fear for somebody else? I'd only want to have love and fear for Hashem. So the Ba'al Shem Tov explained that you have to do this in steps. Hashem is too great, in a certain sense, to really love and fear him directly. You have to learn, first of all, from somebody else. So you learn from somebody else both by seeing what they do, and also, even more importantly, by loving and fearing them. So to love and fear a tzaddik, I also have to remove all my prior involvements, all my prior connections. In a certain sense, I have to become like a clean slate. And it's something that is troubling for people, but really there's no other way to learn this. You have to be able to do it with a tzaddik. And in a way, we do it many times with all kinds of relationships that we have in our lives. That we have to forget about all the different possibilities, the other possibilities that we have in our minds. And I'm clean. I'm just for this person. I'm only connected to this person. So to tzaddik, there's the same thing. But here, it's love and fear. So what is the love and fear? So he says the fear is, like, and this, the Chazal say explicitly, Legabei Moshe milta zutotahi. That Moshe Rabbeinu says, what does Hashem expect for you except that you, other than that you fear Hashem your God? That's all Hashem wants from you. He just wants you to fear him. To have awe of Hashem. As a person comes and says, how can you say that's all Hashem wants? That's the he just summarized all of serving God in one word, fearing God. So I can say, how can you use the word, like belittle it and just say that's all Hashem wants? So there are different interpretations. The interpretation in the Tanya is that in Ba'ape Moshe milta zutotahi, that before Moshe, that if you see Moshe in front of you, you see the tzaddik in front of you, so again you receive from him his awe. Says the Tanya, I have never seen Moshe Rabbeinu. How do I know what awe of God looks like that I could mimic it by seeing it in somebody else? By seeing it in Moshe Rabbeinu, I've never seen Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, no, you also have a Moshe Rabbeinu inside you. That's the Tanya's answer. The Ba'al Shem Tov's explanation is different. And it's what we said, that the Ba'al Shem Tov says that you first have to practice, as it were, on the tzaddik. Meaning that it's relatively easy to fear the tzaddik. But the moment that you do it once with something that's easy, you'll be able to do it again with something that's hard. That's how the Ba'al Shem Tov explains it. That what you should practice is fearing the tzaddik, and practice with the tzaddik makes you able to do it perfectly with Hashem. So that's the reason why he starts with this example of when a tzaddik promises me something, that I have to learn how to purge from myself all my different machinations that existed before in order to learn how to purge all my machinations when it comes to Hashem. It's also in two stages. And first I have to have an example of doing it vis-a-vis a tzaddik. The tzaddik said so-and-so, and I have to learn how to forego all my thoughts, all the different thoughts I had about how to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And this will all come from the tzaddik's blessing. To avoid myself. If I learn how to do it there, I can also do it relative to Hashem himself. Relative to the infinite. It's like taking a baby step in order to take a much bigger step. But you have to have if you can't do it with the tzaddik, you're definitely not going to be able to do it with Hashem. So that's why we learn from the tzaddik in that sense, if we can do it there.
Tanya says you can do it within yourself, right?
What do you mean in yourself?
You said if you have emotion within you, that's what the tzaddik, that's how Tanya explains it.
So Tanya is a different explanation altogether. It's not the same explanation.
How would you do this activity like that?
He's not going against the Ba'al Shem Tov's explanation. He's just giving something else in terms of yira. And here we want to explain that in the Ba'al Shem Tov there's always this idea that you need a tzaddik in order to understand how you relate to Hashem. So by doing it with the tzaddik, you understand how to be able to do it with Hashem. So every person, hopefully, has had some promise that the tzaddik has made them. So then the question becomes, do you know, so we'll explain in a moment who could be a tzaddik here, but are you able to accept that promise in such a way that you void yourself of all your worries and all your troubles and everything's fine? Can you do that? What's for instance a promise that a tzaddik makes? So if I knew the Lubavitcher Rebbe, I would say he made a promise, but I never knew him, so he didn't make a promise to me. So what is a promise that anybody, I think, can relate to? That a promise that was made by a tzaddik, at least at some level. So for women, this is easy. Who made you a promise? I hope your husband. And even that is a sense of, what does it mean? It's this willingness to enter into a relationship saying that everything will be good, that I trust. However this works out, it's good. That's faith. Will it be easy? I don't know. Will it be hard? I don't know. Will it be this? I don't know. But this is the world. This is how it is. And it's good. Whatever it goes up, where's another place that we all received a promise? And because of that, we were able to enter into this world. That before the neshama comes down into the world,
Be a tzaddik and not a rasha.
so Hashem makes a promise. The neshama says, "Am I crazy? Everything here is good. You want me to go down there, and who knows what'll be the end?" So Hashem says, "No, don't worry about it. There's a new world. We're creating a new world just for you." And you have to void yourself to enter into that state. That's probably why the neshama doesn't remember anything from what it had before. It purges itself. It says, I'm willing to completely invest myself in this reality. I'm willing to completely go into it. Why? Because I know that in the end, Hashem is everything. We'll talk more about the fact that Hashem is also good, which is also very important here. But the first feeling is this faith. I have faith in you. I believe in you in such a way that I'm willing to forsake all my knowledge, everything that I was before, and enter into this. I'm creating a new world here. I'm becoming a vessel. It's a tremendous thing that a person's willing to do that. In that sense, that the void that's created here is the ultimate sense of femininity, and that's why the neshama is feminine. The neshama is not masculine, because it's willing to enter into the world. It's a part of Hashem that's willing to say, I'm no longer part of Hashem, at least not consciously, not openly, and I'm willing to enter into this world. I'm willing to go in here. So I received this promise from Hashem, and it's going to be good. Tzaddik gozel v'kadosh hu mekayim. The tzaddik said, tzaddik in this case is Hashem, or one of his emissaries that he sent in Shemaim to call my neshama and say, come down here. And the neshama said, I have complete faith that this is going to work. And what about the sugya I was in the middle of learning in Gan Eden? So put that aside. I'll come to that sugya again here. I'll figure it out here also. It's not the end. Okay? So we're going to have to end here. Even though it's not the end, we'll have to end here. And God willing, continue.
Isn't that interesting then that Moshe's name